Uh, as far as FBA and FBM, what are your advantage and disadvantages you've experienced with the two?
It's all comes down to like time and money. That's
Mm,
really what it comes down to. So FBM, I love it in the sense that I get the product in and it like goes right back out. Like that's awesome. It feels great. Like I got two things from Target came in,
uh-huh.
um, and I listed them up and they sold by like the next day. And I was
Nice.
like, man, this is like music to my ears. Like I love that.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that like instant satisfaction with FBA. But FBM, it's that quick turnaround. You get the product in, out, it's to the customer, you get the money back, and it's so quick.
Right.
And you kind of get that like serotonin release still, because like
Yeah.
it feels good to get that stuff.
Right.
And then FBA, like the number one thing is your time. Like FBM takes so much of your time.
Yes.
When I have a bunch of orders over the weekend, I'm working like the whole morning, like 3 to 5 hours of that day is gone.
Yeah.
So it's just so much more time of like honestly time you get back doing FBA is like worth it. Like I think it's
Yeah.
100% worth it to do FBA like over FBM for that instant, unless you're really like you need the cash now, or you just want to get in on it and like get those inflated prices while you can.
Yeah. I think if you're a
But
new seller, oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say the main thing, like why I like the FBA is just time. Like it's just so much nicer. Send it to my prep center. I don't ever see it. Send it to my prep center. They send it to Amazon. It sells, and then I get the money later. The only
Right.
negative is just the money. You just have to wait for it to actually get to you.
Right. And I was going to say, just to interject, if you're a new seller, it might behoove you to FBM if you're strapped on cash, like you were saying earlier. Me and you have the luxury of time more so because we have a little more capital from selling for a while. But if you're a new seller, I would encourage FBM because you can list it immediately and get your cash back relatively quickly. So awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were starting to venture into wholesale. You've just, I think, were you saying you just made your purchase or have they gotten live yet?
Yeah, yeah. I made it. I got it. And I already sold like 10 units. I need to send an FBA. They do a lot better FBA, like according to just Keepa and like the buy box stats and everything.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I've actually made some sales on that because I listed them FBM because I'm bad at sending stuff FBA now because I'm just
Mhm.
like spoiled with my prep center.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
so I'm like, I need to do this, but it's just not on the top of my to-do list. So I list up at FBM, and if it sells, great. If not, I'll wait.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, sorry, I forgot the question. I went on a
No, you're
rant.
fine. So I think you were alluding to it earlier. As far as the wholesale model, what are some benefits you've already experienced? I know you've just started selling, but any key benefits you've experienced with wholesale over OA?
Yeah, so the main thing is people want my money.
Yeah.
It's just so much nicer to be like, "Hey, I want X amount of units. I want like 100 of this and 50 of this and this and this." And they're like, "Okay, great. Here you go. And here's the shipping. Go ahead and pay for it. And we'll send it out." Okay, boom, boom. And then I get it. Luckily, they're only like a state away from me. So I got it like with 1 or 2 days. And I was like, dang, that was quick. But
Oh,
that
awesome.
that's
That's
the main
crazy.
thing. Yeah, that's the main thing for me is just I rather give someone 30 grand up front the first of the month, get the product, send it out, and then I don't even have to worry about spending anything else if I don't want to. That's really like the biggest like drawing in factor of why I want to get into wholesale. I just have to find all those wholesale people that I want to work with. That's the hardest part. But once you have, your 2 or 3 people, that can make you good money. And then you're just kind of sitting back and letting the money come in at that point.
Right. You're a real distributor at that point, right? And
Yeah.
so I kind of want to piggyback that question. What are some tactics or information that you gathered to do wholesale and how did you execute that?
Yeah, as far as how to do wholesale, I feel like it's essentially pretty straightforward. I mean, I say that, but it's probably because I've just seen so much information on Instagram thrown
Yeah.
at me that
Uh-huh.
I've put together the pieces myself.
Right.
You can also just like Google like how to find distributors to sell or whatever, and I mean, it's like really laid out for you. Like it's really easy. It's just we're so used to being like keyboard like warriors, and
Yeah.
so it's like scary to talk to real people because
Right.
now you have to actually have like relationships with these people where before you're like, I don't want to talk to you. I just want the product. Like if you
Yeah.
see like, a support contact you, hey, we see you place this order. You're like, oh my gosh, they caught on to me. Like you get scared.
Right.
So the biggest thing is just being like social to these people and realizing like this is an actual business relationship. It's not just, I'm not just some like 20-year-old ordering shoes on Nike.com. Like this is a legit business that I'm going to be spending thousands of dollars on.
Right.
But as far as the steps, I mean, it's as you know, other than looking up a like something on Google, like a step by step, you know, just typing in wherever you live. Like I live on the East Coast. Luckily, I live by like a really big port. So I just type in, you know, like East Coast distributor, grocery, or beauty, and you just start going down the list. And I vet them by the address. I make sure the address is a legit like warehouse or an office building, not someone's house or a UPS store. You want to make, you know, avoid those places because they're kind of like hiding where, like, is this actually a wholesaler or is it like scams? There's a lot of scam wholesalers out there.
Yeah.
I verify like how long this website has been like created. So like I think it's online lookup is what it's called. And so anything that's like recently created in the last 2 or 3 years kind of is a little bit of a red flag because it's like, okay, they just started. Is this like a fake website essentially?
Right. Yeah.
And then I just get their contact information and then, you know, you just start like reaching out, calling, hey, like I'm looking to open a wholesale account with you guys. I see you carry this, and this product I'm interested in. And then you just get better at it. It's kind of like sourcing. At first, you kind of suck, and then a little bit, you start to learn what you're doing wrong, and then you know how to talk to people. So the biggest hurdle, I think, is just talking to people. That's really the biggest thing I think is the most scary part about it.
Right, because it's new, right? And something you were saying earlier, not really a drawback, but recently people are getting hit with just purchasing from illegitimate wholesalers, right? So what you were saying, make sure they're legitimate. I like those points that you were giving to find out how they are legitimate. Aside from that, which is an apparent egregious thing, what's a drawback? You mentioned, because a lot of sellers I spoke with regarding wholesale, one of their negatives is the lead time, but it sounds like you get your
I got one really quick.
Yeah. So what is another negative that you've experienced right now with wholesale?
I can't really like say one. Like I know that sounds like corny, but
so you have good ROI too, like the same, like comparable.
It's decent. So FBM, it's decent. FBA, it's like right where I want it. Like it's perfect FBA. But doing FBM, it cuts a little bit more into it, like a couple bucks to make it where it's like it's still good, but it's not as good as I want it to be. Because I'm still looking at, I still want to make at least like $4 or $5 on a product as long as it sells fast and it's something that doesn't get returned a lot. Like this product I have, like it'll be next to none to get a return on it just for what it is. So my one experience, I haven't really had a drawback. The only thing I could think of that would be a drawback is that you have to spend so much upfront. So if something doesn't sell within an amount of time, depending on how you're using that money, like if it's a credit card with a 30-day limit, unless you have money from another avenue, like you're doing OA still, you may fall short and not be able to make your payments if you don't sell it all. So you kind of have to learn how much is a 30-day supply because you don't want to get too much and then you can't pay on it. But you can also get like a line of credit. So it's not, it's not as scary.
Right. Yeah. And that's just cash flow 101, right? Something that doesn't get talked about as much as cash flow here, I think.